number one show at late night, nothing but illustrious guests, and our record continues. Mero, who do we have in the building today?
Only the future Vice President of America, y'all. Kamala Harris in the house. Make some
That's
noise.
right. Make sure it's Kamala Harris. That's right. Hopefully, if America picks correctly the next vice president. How are you doing today, Kamala?
I am good. I'm so happy to be with you guys. It's great to be with you.
Listen, thank you for being on. We know you have a very busy schedule. What's your life like now since you've been named the nominee? Because I'm sure life was different before. Now you are going to be right there next to the most powerful position in the United States. What's that like?
Well, it's long days, traveling around the country, mostly by Zoom, talking to folks and listening. You know, there's just, people are hurting right now. Mm-hmm. And so the conversation is as much as anything for me to listen, but also to talk about what we plan to do on issues that are about everything from access to capital for small and minority-owned businesses to what we need to do around mental health care, to what we need to do to reform the criminal justice system. So long days.
Long days. So leading up to all of this, before you were named as the VP, it was almost like a draft. You know what I'm saying? Like there was like a leaderboard, like a power rankings. How were you feeling through that whole process? Like, did you know, like, were you locked in? Like, I got this?
I was very zen about it. Listen, I just want the man to win. And I was really clear in my mind that he needs to pick whoever can help him win because Donald Trump has got to go. Mm-hmm. And there were incredible women who are part of that conversation, who are national leaders, will continue to be national leaders. So I was honored to just be in the conversation.
Yeah, got you. So we recently just heard the president in those recordings with Bob Woodward actually saying that he knew how bad Corona was and that he played it down. Was it like actually hearing that audio and realizing the effect that had on Americans? Because you see it, like you said, everyone's hurting. As Americans, we can't travel anywhere. Our whole way of life has pretty much been upended. What is it like just hearing that he knew ahead of time and just seeing what he's done since that?
I mean, Jesus, here's the thing. The man was informed in January, right? And then had a conversation with somebody, which, by the way, to your point, that somebody's not telling us what Trump said. There's a recording where we hear what Trump said. He knew that it was airborne. He knew that it was so much so that he's describing to Bob Woodward like airborne as opposed to on a surface where you could get it if you touch something, right? Just to make it clear it's airborne.
Right.
Saying he knows it's lethal. Now, this is the same man who then tries to divide the nation saying, if you're soft, you wear a mask. If you're tough, you don't. When wearing a mask can save tens of thousands, if not millions of lives.
Also, it's easy to say that when you're getting tested 24 hours a day, you know what I mean, at your leisure, Exactly
right. When you essentially live in a bubble, right? And so the thing is that I think most of us have been tracking who he is since he took office, if not before. But what those tapes make clear is that he puts himself first. And the only thing that he was worried about was that if he talked about it, that the stock market might crash. Instead of the fact that today we're looking at over 6 million people who have caught this virus, almost 200,000 people have died from it, disproportionately Black and brown people. And he knew, and he is the president of the United States. So let's talk about that for a moment. You can't walk around with the plane, with the title, with with all the folks who follow you everywhere you go without taking the responsibility that comes with the office to be the commander-in-chief of the United States of America, which means your first priority is supposed to be about keeping the people safe, all the people. And he wasn't worried about that. And so we are seeing people dying in our country every day, again, disproportionately, Black and brown people, poor people, people with pre-existing conditions, while he's been essentially lying to the American people about the nature of this virus.
I mean, listen, we're New Yorkers. We tried to warn everybody about Trump. We're like, listen, hey, he's not what you think he is. He's just a New York real estate grifter from Queens. Like, trust us. But, they didn't want to listen. But here we are.
Well, we're all part of the same big club here. We're all children of immigrants. What is that? What did that experience growing up like that? Because I'm sure we all have very similar stories about getting yelled out at the kitchen table about doing maths, and your father's like, trees. And you're like, whoa, relax. What was it like growing up with that background?
Well, I mean, we all know, right? Our parents are tough.
Mm-hmm.
And, I've always said about my parents, the most loving and tough people you've ever met. Loving in terms of telling you can be and do anything. My mother came to the United States when she was 19 years old by herself, right?
Mm.
So we're talking about being the children of people who took incredible acts of courage, right?
Yeah.
To leave the only place that they've known, to leave their families, and to go somewhere else because they had a dream about what they could do and what they could be, and by extension, what their children could be. And so I was raised with a belief that you can be anything, and don't you ever let anybody tell you who you are. You tell them who you are. And I think we all share that kind of experience, which is, raised by parents who love us deeply, but who also understand the struggle and understand what it takes to not just survive, but to thrive.
Right.
And to challenge people's expectations of who can do what, right?
Kamala, so what are we going to do about the cops? Because we see in the interactions they're having with Black people, it seems like it's getting worse. When you get into office, what can we expect from you and Biden? And are you going to be more progressive as far as like what people are asking about the cops?
Yes, and I'm going to tell you why. So, first of all, in the criminal justice system, there's this phrase, accountability and consequence, that almost always comes up when people are talking about the person arrested, but never about the system itself and the people who work in the system.
Right.
Biden and I are committed to saying everybody needs to be held accountable, even when they wear a uniform and wear a badge and carry a gun. And so part of our plan is what we need to do around a number of things. One, having a national standard on use of force. Part of the problem with why police officers who break the rules and break the law aren't held accountable in a court is because when the case gets to court, the question is, was that use of force reasonable? The problem with that is you can reason away just about anything. What we're saying is the question should be, was that use of force necessary, right?
Yeah.
Part of what we're saying is there needs to be a ban on chokeholds and carotid holds. George Floyd would be alive today if that were the case. Part of what we're saying is there needs to be a national registry of police officers who break the rules and break the law. Why? Because in many jurisdictions, when they commit misconduct, the case doesn't go to a court, but it goes to an administrative hearing where they're fired, right? And then they can move to a new jurisdiction or a new state, and their record doesn't follow them. So we're saying there needs to be a national registry. We're also saying there needs to be pattern and practice investigations. When I was Attorney General of California, I initiated pattern and practice investigations of law enforcement agencies that were accused of discrimination and misconduct and excessive force. That needs to happen at a national level, not only in terms of police departments, but I also say as a former prosecutor, of prosecutors' offices. And so these are some of the things that we intend to put to place. But it's also about reform of the criminal justice system as a whole. There needs to be accountability for police, to your point. But we also need to do things, which is what Joe and I will do, decriminalize marijuana, expunge people's records who have been convicted of marijuana offenses. All of the things that we need to do, getting rid of mandatory minimums, what we need to do around saying that people should not go to jail for drug use and banning that. These are the things that we're talking about because it has to be about systemic reform. And, I've been out there marching with folks and speaking the name of not only Mr. Floyd, but Breonna Taylor, Ahmaud, Jacob Blake. I met with his family, as did Joe Biden. It's got to stop. It has to stop. And frankly, one of the things that has made people more aware of it is because now we're all carrying in our back pocket a video camera and a tape recorder.
Yeah.
And so now the rest of the world is seeing what we have grown up knowing from the beginning.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's giving fuel to the movement is that we don't just have to tell people stuff that nobody else witnessed. Now the world is witnessing it in vivid detail, and the system's got to be held accountable.
Now, what is it like? Because you guys, like, as you just did, you just outlined policy, but the people you're running against, their policy is basically more racism. Like, they haven't put anything forward. They haven't said what they're going to do. There's no plan for opening the country back up as far as, like, even the economy. They're just kind of chugging along like, yo, the pandemic's over. Hopefully, if, you guys win, how are we going to get the economy back? How are we going to get America back going in the right direction as far as, because people,
Right.
can't work, people don't have money. What is your guys' plan for that?
So first of all, one of the things that is a big concern of mine and Joe Biden's is the racial wealth gap, right? Black families own 1/10 of the wealth of white families, and Latino families are not doing much better, right? And so we need to deal with that. So part of our plan is $100 billion to go to minority-owned small businesses to give them the kind of capital they need to either create a business. We have so many entrepreneurs in our communities, right, who just need access to capital. They don't have the relationships with the big bankers. So we're talking about putting that money into community banks so that folks can open up those small businesses that are part of the lifeblood of the community. Part of our economic plan is to say that for first-time homeowners, right, to help people buy their first home, a $15,000 tax credit. Because here's the thing. One of the greatest sources of wealth for any family is home ownership. That's intergenerational wealth, right? That's when you say, when your son comes up to you and says, Daddy, I want to start a small business, you say, honey, I'll take some of the capital, the equity out of the house so you don't have to take out a loan. Or your daughter says, you know, Mommy, I want to go to Howard University. You can say, sweetheart, you don't have to take out some high interest loan. I'll take some of the equity out of the home to help you, right? So investment in first-time home ownership, investment in minority businesses, and with a particular emphasis in neighborhoods that have classically been denied access to resources. Investment in the American worker, and that's about dealing with the fact that we need to build up people's skills. And here's the thing. I think it's a problem to keep talking about higher education, and instead we should be talking about education after high school. And what are the paths that are available to people based on what they want to do, right? So if we talk education after high school, Joe and I are saying that anybody who goes to a 2-year college, that's going to be free, tuition free, right? People who want to go into an apprenticeship program to get the certificate, to get the job. And by the way, I know nobody aspires to a minimum wage job. We need to raise minimum wage to $15 an hour, but we need to help people get those jobs that are going to be $30 and $40 an hour, right? And so that's helping people get on the track to build their skills to get those jobs. For 4-year colleges, for public schools, and for HBCUs, public or private, tuition free if the family has less than $125,000 a year, and loan forgiveness if students come out of those schools making less than $125,000 a year, which is usually the case because so many of our students who come out of college, university want to go into public service.
Right.
So these are some of the things that are about building up the economy, but also building up the capacity of folks and who have long been overlooked. And then there's what we need to do around affordable health care, right? Because you have a good job, but if you can't afford health care, it can bankrupt you. That's part of what we're saying to expand the Affordable Care Act. And here's the thing folks need to know. Donald Trump has his boy, Bill Barr, in the Supreme Court right now trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act, which brought health care to over 20 million people. And here's the thing. Our people have a disproportionately high rate of pre-existing condition. Things like diabetes, asthma, all of that, right? Pre-existing conditions, which insurance companies can then say is the basis of denying you coverage that you can afford. The Affordable Care Act dealt with that. They're trying to get rid of the Affordable Care Act. Joe and I will keep it intact and grow it.
Listen, there was a video of you hopping off, I think it was either a jet or a plane, and the kick game. You had on.
I was about to say, clearly my man is a connoisseur. You know what I mean? Like, let's talk about that for a second.
That was refreshing to see. Usually, you know, because of how society is, when you see women on the campaign trail, they unfortunately have to wear heels, and the people are like, it's not lady. Like, you came out, you did your thing in the sneakers, you look super comfortable, and it's authentic because we always see you in sneakers. That's your regular staple when you're dressed. Tell us about your relationship with sneakers, and what's your favorite sneaker?
Chucks. I love my Chucks. And so, like I just got through washing and putting away my white Chucks because, you know, after Labor Day, you're really not supposed to do that.
Yeah, yes. I know the Jamaican in you, though, was like, maybe.
I used to have, I wore them out, a pair of pink satin Chucks.
Oh, wow.
I had some gold Chucks. I love my Chucks. It's either that or I do heels, but it's one or the other. Definitely been my thing for a long time. Yeah.
Has the gravity of the fact that you could possibly be the first female vice president hit you yet?
I mean, to be honest with you guys, and you understand this. I mean, DESUS MERO, we know, I mean, back to the point about how we were raised, right? My mother would tell me often, she would say, Kamala, you may be the first to do many things, but make sure you're not the last, right? And so one of the things that gives me a sense of a heavy sense of responsibility and also immense joy is when I look at young girls and boys and they look at me in this position and they see themselves and what they can be. Like that's the weight that I carry and the joy of the weight, which is knowing what it means. And, you know, again, it gets back to we have to fight. That's how I think about it. Each one pull one of us gets through the door, leave the door open and widen the opening, and others will come through and follow. And that's the meaning, I think, of life, which is the legacy that you create and that you leave. So that's how I think about it.
This has been a great interview. Thank you for taking time to sit down with us.
Appreciate you. Thank you.
I just also want to mention, I know you guys worked so closely with Chadwick, and I want to thank you for that. I know really, you know,
Yes.
to Howard, and he was a friend.
Yeah, rest in peace to the homie, man.
Yeah, man, he's
That
a
was
great
hard,
dude,
man.
man. Yeah, and it was amazing to see because it's like, you know, when you're going through something like that, to keep it inside and not, you know, most people will be like, you know, woe is me, help me, you know, but he was just pushing on, you know?
Was walking dignity, whether he was sick or not. That's who he was. You know, it's back to what you guys were saying about what does it mean for each of us to be where we are, right? I think Chadwick really understood what he represented and the responsibility he had. And so he always was a proud Black man who walked with dignity and demanded that in a way, right? Which is that all people are treated that way, and that anybody who looked at him and identified with him and knew that he looked like them, that they too should walk with and be perceived as having dignity. And that was his grace. That was his grace and his strength.
Yes, definitely. We're gonna always remember him. We learned so much from just being around. It was a blessing just being around him.
Yeah.
But thank you for being on here. Future Vice President. Everyone that comes on this show gets a neon sign. What would you like your neon sign to say?
Oh, how about, well, just do Kamala for now. And then hopefully we'll win. And then you can do MVP.
MVP, there you go. Just have it up there like a rap album title right there. Yo, Kamala, thank you so much for sitting down and chopping it up with us. People, please, please, please go vote. What's the number again?
Vote or ready at 30330. Text.
Better text that, right? Come on, let's get ourselves together and keep wearing those masks.
Make it happen. She got sneakers on. She'll chase you down. Stop playing.
She will, all right? See, right there.
It's not a game.
It's the real deal. It's the real deal. We'll give it up for Kamala Harris in the crib. Thank you so much.
Thank you.